Welcome to The Kingdom, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics and a land defended by Sir Ross's Knights. Now here's your host, Rocco Geppi.
Hello Knights Nation, I'm Rocco Geppi here with a bonus episode this week of The Kingdom Podcast, Season 3, Episode number 2, and it's all about Knights baseball, as I spoke earlier this week with head baseball coach Sean O'Connor, and you're going to want to hear what he has to say about this team and the coaching staff's expectations. So sit back, relax, and ease into the weekend with part 1 of my interview with Sean O'Connor. Hello, Knights Nation. Rocco Geppi here with you on the Kingdom Podcast. And today I'm joined by head baseball coach Sean O'Connor to go through the 2021 baseball preview. Sean, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Rocco, for having me.
It's my pleasure. So you enter your second season this year, obviously last season shortened due to COVID. So just let's start by just talking about the challenges of that whole thing and what it really took to put together this team for 2021?
Well, I mean, I think the challenges are, you talk about it as it being my second year, and I think with so many changes, I don't know if you can say that. Now, that being said, being a new coach, a lot of things that are happening are now just the norm for me. So it's not so much I'm stuck in my ways of this is how we do things or this is how we do it. So maybe it was a little easier for me than it was in another process. Mm-hmm. For us, me getting the job as late as I did in August, obviously I tried to hit the ground running recruiting wise right away.
Sure.
So it was bringing guys in for that January term last year, which we were quite successful in doing. And then bringing guys in for the next fall. So, in the process for us, a lot of it, as far as recruiting, has been, okay, these are the guys that came back now. We weren't planning them coming back. So now we have to make a decision for X, Y, and Z. I got to give you, Greg, Brian Farrell, all the administration. I mean, if you look at things and you look at what's going on in the world right now, the fact that we're playing baseball, and pretty darn close to when our start time would have been normally, mm-hmm. I think it's pretty incredible. And I think it's you're not talking about, a COVID outbreak with us. You're not talking about this. You're not talking about a shortened schedule. Mm-hmm. So I think it's been real, I'm not gonna lie. The difficulties this winter has been preparing. Sure. Because not add into the COVID situation. But you add into the fact that we can't be inside, and it's been a winter. It's been a winter that we haven't seen in quite a bit. So as me and you know, when we were getting ready for baseball years ago, this is a normal winter. You're going to get snow. But we've gotten so used to having the indoor or having a mild winter, mm-hmm. where we could have got out and done some stuff. So that's been a little rough. We're going to take the field. This is being recorded right before our first game today, and we haven't taken batting practice on a field, mm-hmm. Not just in the spring, but because of COVID rules, including in the fall.
Right.
So our team hasn't taken a field batting practice in a year. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think that matters much for hitters, mm-hmm. But I think defensively it absolutely matters to see a ball come off a bat. So you're going to have a step behind yourself.
Is there any solace in knowing that most, if not all, at least in the region, competitors are going through the same challenges? Like, I understand it's a challenge and I'm not trying to downgrade or downplay the challenge, but is there any solace in it that there are many that are also dealing with that? And so it kind of levels things out a bit?
No, I think all coaches are like, I'll use the word like disturbed dictators. Like we're always worried that somebody's going to overthrow us or somebody's doing something wrong. So I think in reality, it's, you hear, well, these guys are inside or these guys are on their field or, mm-hmm. They only have one sport on their campus. So how easy is it? So I think from that, I think the fact that we're all following the same rules, I think what I told our guys, it's very simply, and I think it's a life lesson. Mm-hmm. You do what you're supposed to do. I mean, you can't worry about somebody else. This is your job. These are your expectations. This is what you have to do. Just like when you go in the workforce, guys. And you don't get the right. When you make $1 million, you can write the rules. Until you make $1 million, you have to follow the rules.
Yeah.
So, right now we're following people's rules. And, I think from a lot of conversations, I think obviously our expectations in March are going to be different than our expectations in April and in May. But right now it's, hey, we're super excited to be playing today. That's really what it comes down to. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's good, in good spirits. Kids are in classes. Kids are moving towards graduation. From that perspective, when we start day one, hey, it's a huge success. Now, talk to me in the second inning. If you do a pregame, in-game interview today, I might not be as upbeat at that point. But right now, I'm really, really happy about the fact that, there are programs around the country, forget junior college, just college in general, that are playing shortened schedules, that are not playing baseball, or not having a World Series or postseason play. That's not our kids. So at the end of the day, we've won by doing everything we needed to do to just get to the point that we're able to have a full season. We're able to have a postseason, so we just got to keep doing what we do. Keep being diligent, and God willing, be safe.
Yeah, most definitely. And to your earlier point, there's a reason we stay out of the dugouts during game days. So,
right.
We definitely know what goes on in there. We're not talking to you.
Right. You have to unfortunately get the non-Christian words to come out every now and then, which I would never say to parents that would be listening at home. I'm a Catholic boy. So
yeah, they know. So only 6 games last year, like we mentioned, so aside from the obvious, because you already touched on a couple of things, but what are some of the things that you're most excited about for 2021?
Batting practice. Look, it's baseball. I love competing. I love seeing our guys do well. I love challenging them. So the whole season part is super exciting to me. I know by default, this is my second year, but in my opinion, this is my 1B. Because, as I've gone through and as everybody's asked me, how good are you going to be? I have no clue.
Right.
I haven't seen other teams play, so my parameter is a 6-game schedule in March against one team that was nationally ranked now this year in Caldwell, and then Catonsville, who's predicted to finish very, very high in junior college this year.
Right.
So, we did really well and we competed with those guys. But we didn't have the whole ringers of a season. And I think, with our pitching staff and our coaching staff, I think that's where hopefully we shine, is we keep kids active, we keep kids healthy. We don't, it's a game of attrition.
Yeah.
Junior college baseball, when you're playing this year 40, but in past years 56 games, it's a matter of who can stay healthy.
Yeah.
And you look at our roster. Yeah, is our roster big? Sure it is, but that's because of what we're talking about. You're playing a 40-game schedule in basically a month, basically 6 weeks. When all is said and done with spring break and this and that. So we're going to get at it, and I'm super excited about our kids, our development. I think we ended up sending 3 kids off to college last year to play ball. It's interesting because I think we could obviously double that number this year, but we could also have all those guys come back by the new JUCO rules.
Right.
So I think they have a lot of interest in finding the right fit for themselves. So, I'm excited about that process.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And let's talk about some of those student athletes. Let's start with the returners. Let us know who's coming back to the Kingdom, whether COVID freshman, COVID sophomore, and, we'll get to everybody else in a little bit.
There's a lot of guys coming back. Obviously you start on the mound, you got Jeff Young. Jeff was a big time pitcher in the 19 staff, which obviously I expect him to be a big part of our program. Actually graduated, was an academic All-American last year, and is actually taking classes towards his engineering degree at UMBC. So not a smart kid, works really hard academically, doing things the right way, and obviously really competitor on the field. We come back with Rolando Heredia. Rolando was, before my time, but my understanding, the dude on the 18 team that got them to the World Series.
It was, unless you went through it. I mean, probably, I think I wrote about it at some point, probably the biggest, most dominant 8-game postseason stretch that on the mound that I've ever seen.
Right. And so you have him coming back now. Obviously, it's 2 years removed from that, but we expect that part of leadership to help the young guys. We have, up the middle, J.J. Arazo, Max Jinjiga, and Alvin Carrera. 3 guys that can play anywhere in all 2 of the spots, even can play third. You have Cam Powers at third base. You have Devin Johnson. Mitchell Haywood behind the dish, which is a huge from Canada coming in. And then a kid that, I hate to say it, always surprises me is Luis Gonzalez. It's, when we've already said this, if you would have bet me last year that he would have hit 2 home runs, now granted, one of them didn't count because he didn't hit second base, but if you would have hit 2 home runs, I couldn't have made that bet. So, having him back and his leadership is huge. From that perspective. So I'm really excited for those guys. And there's other guys that are returning, but didn't have big parts in last year's team that we expect to be a big part of this year, like Didi Duran and guys like that.
Great. Talk about some of the newcomers as well. And not only just the freshmen, but I always count transfers as newcomers as well. So talk about them.
Yeah. I mean, we got Victor Cabrera that hopefully will be in our program. When all said and done, Jeff Jones. Jeff's a big arm from Frederick Community College that, was 90 before Tommy John surgery. So we're hoping he can be right back in the mix and, more importantly, healthy in the equation. You have some local guys like Ryan Mills from Mount St. Joe, Ryan Conroy from Delaney, Todd Murphy, who was preseason All-State from Eleanor Roosevelt. Damon from Texas. We'll just say Damon because his last name I'll put.
Yeah, we definitely have to touch base on the pronunciation guide soon.
AYZ in that. Nomar Torres in center field. I think one of the big transfers you're going to see is Sammy Carrera in right field. Okay. He's coming from New York. He's a Bonnie's kid, which I'm well knowing that organization. So I'm really excited about that. And you got a guy like Austin Muma, who's at Loyola High School, went to Penn State Harrisburg, and now is back in our program. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of depth in our program that, hopefully will rise to the top.
Yeah, I got to say, we're excited. I think I'm entering in one way, shape, or form. I've been around since 2009, whether announcing or involved in athletics. And I got to say, from a depth standpoint, this is the largest roster I've seen. And whenever you can put that many ball players in the dugout, and I know you get to a certain point in the season when you can only dress so many, but you hit it earlier, the attrition, the arms, the legs, you come into late April and head into the regional tournament. It's all about who's standing at that point.
Well, Rocco, here's the other thing. We don't talk about this, the academic side. To be able to have student athletes say, you know what, you don't need to miss a Thursday class because we're fine. You can take care of your academics that day. I think that's a big piece that sometimes people forget in the scheme of this thing, that if we can make it easier on the student athletes, and I'm not saying those kids aren't wanted to be there and they don't want to be there, but you are a student athlete first. And if you're struggling in the classroom, we can pick you up until you come back to where you need to be.
Yeah.
And obviously the goal is obviously we don't have to worry about classes in May. We're done. So obviously if we're in the regionals and farther on, classes aren't the issue.
Right.
As we're going through it, and it's okay because it's going to get a lot tougher.
Yeah.
I think with the fall, they didn't get a full sense of what fall baseball was because having the week off and not going every day of the week. So academically, they didn't really see that part of it.
Right.
So I think hopefully we don't have some kids that fall, but we're gonna, that as well as I do. And it's just about us making notice when that happens and helping them out.
That was part one of my interview with head baseball coach Sean O'Connor. We're going to hit a quick commercial break, and when we return, I'll have part two of that interview for you here on the Kingdom Podcast.
Let's talk about college.
Times have changed.
We've changed.
I refuse to accept an education that comes with a mountain of crippling debt.
No longer will I stay stuck in a job because college has no time for me.
I will not confuse a fancy name for a quality education. Sorry, Pops.
Let's talk practical.
Let's talk flexible.
Let's talk smart education.
Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online at ccbcmd.edu and see what you can be.
We are back, the Kingdom Podcast, Season 3, Episode number 2, and we're talking baseball with Knights head coach Sean O'Connor. Let's get you back to that interview. Here's part 2 of O'Connor and I talking about the 2021 version of the Knights. Well, you mentioned earlier, we're recording this, right before you will have played your first game of the season. It's on the road against inter-campus rival Catonsville. Mm-hmm. Again, aside from the obvious, getting to step on an actual field, you start to get visions of different baseball movies and Field of Dreams. Like I'm sure that's what the feeling is going to be when you actually step onto a field. But what are your goals for this first game as we get the season started here in 2021?
I mean, it sounds nuts because it really is. We told our guys last night, it's very simple. You playing, you won. At the end of the day, we're going to make errors. We're going to walk people. We're going to strike out. We're going to miss signs. We're going to do all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if you're looking and we might win, we might lose, we might tie. All those are coming in the equation. But at the end of the day, us playing, I think for one game, we can sit back and say, you know what? We're all competitors. We all want to win. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we're playing means we won. Yeah. And I think that's a great thing for these college freshmen to hear. Mm-hmm. The kids that are – because everybody wants to be Superman. Everybody wants to come out and rip their chest off and be as big as they can possibly be. Uh-huh. And then when it doesn't work out, it's panic mode because they were that guy in high school.
Right.
So at the end of the day, COVID might have given us a godsend mm-hmm. because it's less important that it's opening day.
Yeah.
From that perspective. But, I'd like to see us be smart, that we're making decisions. We know the right thing to do, regardless if we execute it. But we made right reads. We made the right pitch. We threw the right bases. I think those are things we can control. I'd like to say we play an upbeat and fast pace. But again, the benefit of us is has our offense been really good in scrimmages? Sure. That's good for me as the offensive coach. It's not so good for Coach O'Brien as the pitching coach. So the fact that we can really see, okay, is our offense really good or is our pitching not so good?
Right.
And that's actually now evaluate. Yeah. And we can test how good a team we're going to become because that is the challenge. Yeah. Let's not kid anybody. That is the challenge.
Yeah. You bring up some great points. I mean, it's awesome to be Superman. But I think sometimes people forget how important Jimmy in the newsroom was.
Oh, look, at the end of the day, we even if it's a small thing like bunting, mm-hmm. nobody remembers the guy that gets the sack bunt down. Nobody. Mm-hmm. They remember the next guy that gets the hit. They remember the next home run. They remember the guy that scored, whatever it was, how he got on base. The sack bunt is the least remembered thing in the world. But if you don't get the sack bunt down and they lose, everybody remembers you.
Exactly.
So it's kind of those things of you're a lunch pail guy. You come to work every day. You do what you can do. Mm-hmm. You can control the controllables. And I think with our kids and instant gratification, it starts with, hey, coach, when's my pitcher going on the website? like, okay, don't matter, guys. Like, I'm worried about a million things. Your picture on the website's not my top priority.
I think it's the quickest in CCBC Essex Athletics history that we've had pictures and bios on the roster this season.
So
we did away with that one for you.
Yeah, but still, they were asking like literally minutes after this. You guys took the pictures, whatever that Monday was, whatever the date was.
Yeah.
And I'm not telling you 30 minutes into practice. Hey, coach, when do you think those pictures are going to go up?
It's great because I warned, our former student athlete, now part-time athletic specialist, Tori Santoro, was doing the photography for that this year because, we've reached that point where I have to try and temper my ego and start delegating some things.
Right.
And so I warned her. I said, listen, they're going to come up to you and say, can I see it? Let me see what it looks like. What angle did you get me? I said, if the picture's good, tell them the picture's good and let them go. Cause you got 34 guys that you got to get these pictures done and it's not going to go quick.
It feels bad because look, we were all that age and we were all there and you feel like the crusty old guy when you say it, but guys, it doesn't matter. Like
right.
But it does. And I know it does, but I
understand.
It's like, talk to that guy, talk to the young assistant. Don't come to me with that question.
Definitely. Well, I'm going to ask the final question here and it's a little bit going on in it, kind of two-parter, but I think where I'm going with this. Talk to me about what the expectations are for this team. And then at the end of the season, when you're sitting down with Coach O'Brien and the rest of your staff, and you're talking about this year, what's going to define success? So expectations and what will define success for you? Well,
expectations to win the region. That's the expectation. We're not competing on something that we're not going to compete for. So it's a really simple thing. And I think every coach is going to have that. The sitting back with Coach O'Brien thing, as a coach, I don't know if you can do that. Mm-hmm. I think you judge success 10 or 15 years from now. I think that if you want to tell me, hey, coach, how was your team? Talk to me in 10 years. Talk to me in 15 years. Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing. I think we're going to sit back and say, hey, this didn't work or that didn't work or why didn't that work in X, Y, and Z. But I don't think we're going to sit in June and either declare this a success or declare this a failure.
So just go into that a little bit more for me, because I think I understand where you're going to go with this. And I want our viewers and listeners to understand. So when you say 10 or 15 years from now, are you talking about the overall historical significance, or are you talking about where those student athletes are a decade from now?
I'm talking about those kids. Mm-hmm. What kind of men that they've become, what kind of fathers they've become, how they are in society. I think that's here's the truth. We've had it, right? We've had Hall of Fame teams that come back and all this stuff. And I had it in my past experience at my past job. And I know you've had it where you're at. It's no small thing that the teams that are really good, the people on those teams normally go somewhere mm-hmm. and are somewhere. They're great fathers. They're employed. They have great jobs. It's not a small detail mm-hmm. that great things from that turn out into something greater.
Right.
Which, I think that's the truth. Mm-hmm. I look at the best teams that I've ever coached and, hey, that guy's coaching right now. Or, hey, that guy's, got one guy's a rocket scientist right now. Literally, he's a rocket scientist. I think those types of things, when you look at what it is, I think they hold truth in June when you look at your team. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, but they're going to show up 10 years from now when that kid's coming to the game. Hopefully we have fans at that point 10 years from now. And he brings his little guy to the game and say, hey, coach, I really want him to be a Knight. And we're like, hey, come on board. Let him play on the moat. We'll have it happen,
I think that's so important. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because it's wonderful for your staff and for us, in the recruiting process, to say to someone from Miami or from Texas or from Canada, hey, mom and dad, don't worry, we got you. We're going to have this game live stream. We're going to live stats. We're going to do this and that in the region. We're going to be competitive. It's a whole other thing to be able to tell a parent, my goal for your child is 10 years from now for us to look back and say, man, that's great that we had a little bit of piece of him becoming the man that he is now.
Well, and you've been there now long enough to say that. I mean, you're now
Absolutely.
you're now having, guys that are coming back and guys that are doing job stuff and putting you down as reference and all the stuff that we all know. And I hate to say it, hey coach, can I be a reference for you on my FBI background check? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think once you've established that number one, you're a part of their life and you're something that you can do. You see it in the year growth of guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Forget the 10-year growth. You see guys that come in and, I hate to say it, but, have trouble deciding what they're going to eat that day.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're, hey coach, you want to come over for dinner? Well, not now with COVID, but so I think it is, I think it's at junior college more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the reason I believe it's the case is I think it happens at 4-year schools. But I think that development is really your freshman year, the same way it is in high school. I think your freshman year at both places are probably what's going to determine what you're going to be in those next 4 years. So you come in and have the right work ethic and learn the right study skills and the right mannerisms, because it probably is, it's sad to say this, but it probably is the first time in your life now that you've had to advocate for yourself. Sure. I would say when we were growing up, it was probably a little earlier in our process. But I think as this is going in our society, I think 18, 19 years old for some of these kids might be the first time they've had to advocate. And that's how you want a job interview, you want a raise, you got to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's great stuff. And you're right. It's definitely the most exciting and most satisfying part of this job is, the championships are great. The, making these live streams happen, doing this podcast, like those are all great. But when it comes down to it, it's hearing from that former student athlete saying, hey, we're getting ready to have our first baby, or, I just graduated summa cum laude, or, those are the moments that keep you coming back.
And I don't think they're separated. I mean, I think they are together. I think winning championships creates character. I think you do them both together and you'll have the same success. So
definitely. Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining me here today. Great conversation. I know we're all looking forward to seeing this team on the field, and we can't wait to see it here at home. We're going to see it, obviously, with the season getting started here very soon. So thank you for joining us. Very much appreciated.
I'm excited to start the season. And again, I can't thank you guys and everybody in the staff for everything that you did. Our kids are really excited about putting on a uniform today and playing baseball.
Absolutely. There he is, head baseball coach Sean O'Connor. Don't forget, head over to our website, ccbcessexknights.com, for more information. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CCBC Essex Sports. The baseball team is on Twitter and Instagram as well. They are Essex_baseball_. And make sure you're using the marks, folks. Don't spell that out UNDERSCORE. It's Essex, the _ mark, baseball, the _ mark, on Twitter and Instagram. And listen, probably the most important thing this year, well, to us anyway, is make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, at least to start the season. Not allowed to have spectators in the stands. So that is where you're going to see all of the Knights home games this year. It's youtube.com/CCBC Essex Knights. For my guest today, Sean O'Connor, I'm Rocco Geppi. We're going to head to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with more of the Kingdom Podcast, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics.
Times have changed, and I will not stay stuck in a job because college has no time for me. I will not let a limited schedule limit me.
Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online and see what you can be.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for listening to Season 3, Episode 2 of the Kingdom Podcast, the 2021 baseball season preview. My thanks once again to head coach Sean O'Connor for joining me to give us some insight into the Knights baseball team. My biggest takeaway from this interview was his view of success and how he explained and talked about they'll measure success 5 to 10 years from now. And that tells you a lot about the goals and the priority of this coaching staff and how, they really just want to develop and help groom these young men to be successful adults in the future. Great stuff, and I really appreciated him giving us that information in the interview. Folks, that's all the time we have for this episode. We thank you again for listening in, and remember to check back with us for subsequent episodes. We're here all season long as the Knights teams get back out onto the field. As I said in the interview, make sure you follow us on social media, especially the YouTube channel. No spectators, at least to start the season. However, every single Knights home game will be broadcasted at youtube.com/CCBC Essex Knights. That's youtube.com/CCBC Essex Knights. You can also keyword CCBC Essex Athletics in the keyword search on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CCBC Essex Sports, and you can find us on Facebook as well. Be sure to check us out online, ccbcessexknights.com, to stay up to date on all the Knights news around the kingdom. Once again, I'm Rocco Geppi. Thank you for joining us. So long, and stay safe.